Shay Eskew, I'm so excited that we can be here and have this conversation to serve people with the blessing of your story. And you have quite a story. I think people have read your bio. When we first learned about you, someone said, your story about how you were burned over 65% of your body as a young child. I believe you were 8 years old. And I think a lot of times we hear these stories and we think, oh, something happened to you back then, but now you're okay. Not realizing that 40 surgeries later, at your age and stage, you're on a journey of continuous treatment. Is that right?
That is definitely an accurate statement. I think this is kind of near and dear to the audience here, but the last one being at USF, just back in January. Some of you may be familiar with it, but I had a skin flap. So basically, this is an 8 to 10 hour, very extensive surgery where they took a section out of my back, approximately 8 by 4 inches, with the blood vessels, the fatty tissue, everything. They removed burn tissue from my neck and then carefully grafted in the skin taken from my back. It's pretty high risk, scary surgery. I've heard about it before. Honestly, I was a little scared to do it for years, but then something told me it's now or never. This is kind of the opportune time. Jessica, you can appreciate this. It's one of those things, like, I got peppered with so many questions because I didn't share with anybody I was having the surgery, really. So then a few days before, I started telling people, hey, look, I'm going to be out for a few days. I'm having a pretty big procedure. My wife keeps asking, what's involved? How long will you be in the hospital? What's the recovery? And I said, I don't know. And they said, how do you not know? My belief is, look, if I'm committed to something, I'm in. I'm all in. I don't want to know the things that could go wrong because I don't want to be talked out of doing it, right? Like if I'm 100% in, there's no chance of backing down. And so I remember when I'm sitting there, doing the work up there, I'm just 30 minutes away from having the surgery. And they start going through all the things. They said, for number one, I don't know if they told you this, but you can't have food or drink for 2 days after the surgery. After. I'd already been fasting before. I was like, well, that's a new wrinkle. They said, yes, due to the complexity of surgery, we need to have you ready that if the graft fails, we can rush you back in to take whatever measures are necessary. I said, got it. I'm on board. I'm all in. They said, all right, number two, we've identified the ideal spot to take the skin is from your back. We need to have a backup spot. So we started drawing on my body another section, 8 by 4. So if this graft failed, how they could fix it. So those are just kind of the contingencies that I think in a normal situation might deter you from doing it. That's why I don't want to know. I'd like to know right before we go in, but I don't want any chance that could deter me from doing what I know is going to be a life-changing situation for me.
Right. And that's what's pretty amazing about this talk is that you were operated on by doctors from USF.
Yes. Got it. Amazing care. It's been 10 weeks. And believe it or not, 6 weeks after surgery, I was back to doing 60-mile bike rides, up to now running 11 miles. So I'll be racing in 2 months at Ironman Chattanooga 70.3. So I think it's pretty safe to say I've made a full recovery.
Well, tell us a little bit about the journey of the Ironman. I think a lot of times we see someone as an Ironman or an Iron Woman, and we don't have a true appreciation. We think it's not attainable. And I think in your Ironman, in the contest, it's nothing is, you don't have any special privileges because of how your body is right now, right?
I think one thing people should understand that being an Iron Man, Iron Woman, it's not a calling. Like when you look at the sport, everybody competing has a story because we're all battling something, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, financial. We're all trying to overcome some obstacle in our life. I know it's hard looking at me today. You probably think I've always been this good looking, right? It's natural. But believe it or not, 13 years ago, it's 14 now, 14 years ago, I was 44 pounds heavier. 44. As a guy, 5'7", it was not very attractive. At the time, I was 188 pounds. When I'd go work out, I worked out every day. I'd focus on the gun show, right? The biceps, the chest, wanted to look good in a t-shirt. Now, I'll never forget, I was in the locker room. This 65-year-old burly man comes up to me. He's got the military flat top, and he goes, "Hey, tough guy." I said, "Are you talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm talking to you." He goes, "Why don't you come here and do my little boot camp class? It's just me and a bunch of women. Shouldn't be anything for a guy like you with all your big muscles." Completely missed it. He knew exactly what he's doing. I was 33 at the time. I walk in there. Within 10 minutes, I'm in tears because we're doing nothing but core, leg raises, planks. I mean, I was just demolished. These women are crushing me and they're loving it. The last 10 minutes, Henry, that was our instructor, plops down beside me and says, "Shay, count with me." So we're doing 4-count push-ups. 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 2. I can't keep up with the guy. And he goes, "SQ, you better pick it up. They're kicking your butt." And I was so embarrassed. All I could say is, "Yes, sir." After the class, somebody came up to me, a good friend of mine. He goes, "Hey, I don't know if you know that, but that 65-year-old man, he runs 8 to 10 miles a day. He's also a former Marine drill sergeant. Oh, and by the way, he was one of the original Ironmen from 1978. So I went home to my wife, recounted the story for her. And I said, "Henry doesn't know who he's messed with. It's on." I was back in his class every single day. Within 2 months, dropped 25 pounds, was back in the fighting shape. And over a period of months, Henry got diagnosed stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he and I commiserated about just how unfair life is, but yet how rewarding, right? He said, "Shay, I've done everything a man could do. I've served my country, faithful to my wife, don't drink, don't smoke, take care of my kids." I said, "Henry, I was an 8-year-old set on fire by a neighbor's kid. What could I possibly have done to deserve something like that?" But it's through that that I've learned just how valuable life is, right? Once you've kind of experienced hell, everything else looks pretty amazing. So we became close friends, and we lost Henry, sadly, a year into this fight. But right before he passed, a group of us said, "Henry, we're going to do the next big Ironman." So we all signed up, trained for it. And after crossing that finish line, it was a game changer. I mean, it truly was a lifestyle change. And then it started opening my eyes to what else in life have I not pursued, because it just seemed so crazy, so unattainable. You don't even know how to start. Because Jessica, that's one of the questions I could ask. Like, I could never do an Ironman. It's not possible. And I said, "How do you know? Have you tried? Have you physically got a training plan, tried doing Ironman, and you couldn't do it?" He said, "No. But I know I can't swim 2.4 miles, bike 112, and run a 26.2-mile marathon." I said, "Look, I get it. I couldn't either. But what about this? What if we met tomorrow? Could you run, walk for 20 minutes? Not judging on speed. Can you run, walk for 20 minutes? Absolutely. What if we met the next day? Could you ride a bike, pedal, coast for 40 minutes? Again, we're not judging on speed. Could you do it?" Everybody's all like, "Absolutely." Well, guess what? In that 30 weeks of progressive building, you could do an Ironman. That's the same plan I followed. It's the same plan hundreds of thousands of people have followed to do it. I tell everybody, if you stand at that finish line and you watch people walk, run, or crawl across the finish line, you will leave convinced, "I could do an Ironman." My bet is you would sign up within the next 6 hours, because you realize anybody could do it. It's just making that mental commitment that you're going to do whatever it takes to get across that finish line. But what's most important, that finish line, it's not about Ironman. It's about life in general, right? Like we're all racing to something. And the training that I learned in Ironman can be applied to any goal in life.
Yes, because when I've read your book front to back, and we were introduced by a mutual friend, and I remember when he first introduced us, and I thought that people should hear your story, and they said, "Oh, we had a burn guy last year come talk to us." And sometimes we do put labels on people, and I think what was so interesting about your story is that when you were 8 and this happened, sometimes we think, okay, you get your surgery, then you're better. And now you've had 40 surgeries. I think what I want to think about is, with this Ironman, just maybe a little bit more about how many do you have now? How many medals and what % are you?
So I've done 42 Ironman events. I've done all 6 continents. Been fortunate to be ranked top 1% in the world the last 6 years. But Jessica, I think one of the things that most people don't understand is, like, you see where I am today, you think this is how it's always been. Like, they have no idea the 40-year journey I've been on. They don't understand that for 3 years, my right arm was physically melted to my body. It took me 3 years to lift my arm up.
Wow.
I had to learn how to write left-handed to finish the 3rd grade. They had no idea that my neck was stuck permanently at a 6-degree angle. It also required 3 years, PT, wearing orthotic braces 22 hours a day to get through it all. What they also don't realize is, shortly after getting out of the hospital, I told my dad, I want to play baseball. It was a passion of mine before, getting burned. The doctors thought it would be impossible because, again, I couldn't lift my arm up.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad wanted to support my goals and my dreams. So he put me at second base. Why? Because that's the closest distance to first. I could throw the ball underhand to first. And when I batted, in the event that I actually hit the ball, I got thrown out almost every single time running to first because of all the surgeries. I had to learn how to walk again, much less run. So I can tell you without hesitation, for years, I was absolutely the worst player on the field. Then 6 months later, told my dad, "Dad, I want to play football again." The doctor said, "That's crazy. You don't have sweat glands on a third of your body. You have no nerves in your shoulder, your face, your back. What if something happens?" So to remedy that, my dad inserted an additional 3 inches of padding into my shoulder pads. Again, I was absolutely the worst player in the field. But you know what? For those 2 hours on a Saturday, I felt like a normal kid. And that's all I've ever wanted in life. Just give me a chance to compete. It wasn't about being the best. It was about being my best. And I think that's what people lose sight of. Like, our society places so much emphasis on you have to be the best.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about being your best. Because honestly, my wife and my kids, they don't care how many medals, how many trophies I've won. They just want to know I'm happy, that I'm pursuing my joy, and that I'm passionate, right? Because that's one of the things I think we lose sight of as parents is we love to tell our kids what they should be doing, but are we modeling it? Are we living that lifestyle? If we're telling our kids to go exercise, are we exercising? I get up every morning at 4:30. I work out for an hour and a half to 2 hours every single morning. I don't have to tell my kids the importance of working out because they see me doing it every day. They think that's natural, right? My little 7-year-old, she is one of the best ones in the house. Anytime I'm working out and she gets up, she wants to come work out with me. And Jessica, you and I talked about this earlier, but I know the pandemic hit everybody hard, right? It impacted all of us. I mean, we'd be lying if we said we didn't. But one of the pledges I made to myself was the one thing that I have control over in life is my health. Everything else that goes on, I can do my part, but there's so many things outside of my control. Why worry about it? So I committed to being in the best shape that I possibly could for the last 2 years because I have control over that.